I was just thinking about I'm gearing up with editing and all this stuff with my second book. And I don't know if I ever talked about why I even started this whole journey. And not to give any of the book away, but hopefully you already read it. This is my first book. But it was something that I was going through that I discovered that several other people in the salon were going through. And it was a hard thing. I don't know what's bleeping over here. So our bosses who we loved these guys. I mean, they were just the sweetest couple. They spoiled us to death. And then we were growing really, really fast, and they wanted to make it more high end and more. I mean, just this space that they had was beautiful, and they wanted to make sure it was running like a well-oiled machine. And this woman had all the credentials to make this happen. So anyway, she comes in and she is know if something was like, if she was, I hate to say this, like needed medication, or just she was just seemed evil. She was mean. She said horrible things to us, made us cry. Like the poor, we had an apprenticeship program because we were at an Aveda salon. And so like the poor shampoo girls, like at least two or three of them cried every day. She made me cry once or twice, but just really the things she said just kind of put me off. I was like, she actually say that usually in front of a client? So we all had these different experiences with her. Some people that were a little more assertive, they would get into it with her, but weren't really affected in the same way, because they would just be like, screw off, bitch, or whatever. But so anyway, I was like, the amount of people that quit during this time, and I tell this story to my clients still, that the amount of people, it was a big salon, so there were probably 40 plus employees. And this period, over, I think it was 5 months, over 5 months, I think 13 people quit, which is a lot. And she was replacing them with these like clones or drones or whatever you want to call it, just people that didn't have any, they kind of were just plain. It was weird. It was like, I could have gone the whole sci-fi world, invasion of the body snatchers kind of vibe with it, because it could have easily gone that way. But so I started writing down these different interactions, and what the girls said she said to them to make them cry, and all of the ridiculous things that came out of this woman's mouth. And then she could be kind for a very brief moment. It was very strange. We were on an emotional roller coaster working at this place. So I was just writing in this notebook with a pencil, writing down these things, joking around the whole time. Oh, I'm going to write a book about this. This is such good, juicy stuff. I'm going to write a book. And I just wrote and wrote and wrote and didn't really make any sense of it. And then kind of started writing. I came to a point where, with that many people leaving and with some of the behaviors she was doing, which I think I get into in the book, about it felt like she was trying to take over something that somebody else owned. And it was a very old fashioned way of like, I'm going to conquer this land and take it over as queen. I mean, she really actually tried to make this happen. But it was bizarre. And we were all probably mildly traumatized by it. Of course, we are hairdressers and nail people, and very creative, I don't know, usually loving people, but not here. We just didn't know what to do with ourselves. So anyway, long story short, read the book. I ended up moving after, I think I quit. I walked out twice, I think. And both times the owners came back. They just couldn't understand. She was pulling the wool over that she was kissing their ass and putting them up on this pedestal while secretly doing all this stuff. It was crazy. So they had no clue what was going on. And whenever they came to the salon, which they were there a bunch, but whenever they were there, she was a different person. It was crazy. I must have said crazy a million times, but it was quite surreal what was happening. There was no murder, but it just seemed right to put it in that way in the book. But so as I wrote and wrote and wrote all these occurrences, and then I started playing around. I was like, maybe I should like use the everyone who's quitting, I'll just make them get murdered and see how it feels. So I started doing that kind of stuff in my little notebook with my little pencil, and then I had to get a second notebook and I started writing in there. Then eventually, I don't know if it was, we moved to Texas. We were there for 2 years. That's going to be book two because there was a whole bunch of people there, mostly this one jerk that I worked in the salon in the first location. And then I was like, screw this. I'm not doing this again. I'm not going to go back and forth. I'm not dealing with people like this. So I went to go quit and my boss was like, don't quit. Just move locations. The department head at the other place needs someone over there. So go over there. And I did. And it was the best move I could have made. And then that just kind of coasted me. I was in a good place out there and having the time of my life. And then we got promoted again, and I didn't get promoted. Rich got promoted, and then we moved here to Georgia. So while all that was happening, eventually, somewhere along the line, I think I was here when I took my notebooks and put it on a disc. Because remember the CD kind of discs that we used to put into the computer? I put everything on there, and then I thought I lost it. And then I think at one point I even put it on a thumb drive. And eventually, over the years, just kind of, I would add a little to it as I transferred it to the next newest option of technology. And then just again, over the years, added this, switched it over, added this, switched it over, still had my notebooks, kept my notebooks. And then last year, I don't know exactly what motivated me, to finish, but I ended up taking my notebooks, taking and looking at my CD, and I think my thumb drive. I think there was a thumb drive. I don't know where that went. That's gone. But for the most part, got it all into Google Drive. And then to finish the book, I would write stuff down in my notebook and then just pace back and forth on the back patio and voice to text into the Google Drive, which was sort of good and sort of bad because the spelling was atrocious. I guess the way I talk sometimes seemed like a continual sentence, and then the spelling of the names. And then I actually, while I was writing, I just used everyone's real name. Well, couldn't do that in the book. And then I changed their personality just slightly, changed some of the situations that happened just slightly, and gave them a new name. And boom. So most of the girls that are in there have read it and thought it was hilarious. It's not a funny book, but just reading it like that is kind of funny. What happened to me while I was writing this? It was so funny how far along I was, and also reading it into Drive like that, and then writing and reading it again, just the overlap of it all really was cathartic. I think I processed some trauma along the way. And with this new book, too, at first, as I was writing certain parts of it, I felt cranky and I was going through my emotions. And instead of just blowing them off, I sat with them for a minute, and I even for a couple of days, even like a week. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm living through this. I need to sit with it and get through it, and I've been feeling so much better now that I'm quote unquote done with with the first draft of the book. So now it's just tweaks. So I think I'm in a good place now, but the whole thing was so cool to go through and relive ish these experiences from a distance and be able to see how they affected me or how I let them affect me, which I still do now. I'm still working on it, but to go back and I journal now, so that's that's fun too, to kind of write down how I'm feeling in the moment and see what that all feels like. So anyway, but with this book, I've been able to kind of process some stuff. I'm like kind of going through my own therapy here and feeling better and feeling like I've ironed out some of the wrinkles of my life, I guess. So it's been really nice. And the other really cool thing is being able to get revenge on these people fictionally, not in real life. So then I don't feel bad about it because it's not true and it didn't happen. And it's like, I should have done this and I should have done that. And so I'm like, well, I did do that, but not really, but it made me feel good fictionally. So and also to kind of forgive these people for the way I iron things out. It was my way of forgiving them for the way they act, and then forgiving myself for reacting in that way. So that's it. I just wanted to kind of throw that out there at you, why writing things down can help. Also, writing in your journal and then going back years later, a couple years later, and reading it and seeing how you were feeling and then comparing that to how you feel now is so amazing. I know one of the guests I had on here, one of my friends, Jenny Harmon, also just did this, went through her journals. She had stacks and stacks of them. It was amazing. Actually, I need to talk to her about how, if she went through any emotional roller coasters or anything like that. Maybe we'll get her on again. She's always a fun one to have on. She's doing some great stuff right now, some skate park stuff. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. I'll talk to her and get her on here. But that's it for now. You can see Yeti's over here. I've spent a lot of time up here. The second book will be coming out probably in March. I got a lot of tweaking to do, I think. But I just wanted to throw that out there in case you were wondering. And then the book review I wanted to talk about, I don't know if I did. There was a book of poems. I'm on this website that we get to do early reviews of the book. Now I think you can just do it on Amazon. It's on Amazon. I'm going to link it here. It's called, and I'm going to get it. I keep forgetting. The Long Now. It's called The Long Now Condition Permit. And it's a bunch of poems, and I suck at reading poems. It has that language that I just don't understand. But this one made me realize that it's like looking at art and interpreting it in a way that you connect with. So it was a very cool, it just pulled me in and kept me there. As I get older, I am watching the crows outside. In this particular book, she mentions seagulls a lot, and that was something I used to keep my eye on at the beach. I loved watching them because they're so curious, and they'd get themselves into trouble and push a little hard, get a little too close to the people's food and stuff like that. It was just a fun thing. So it just brought me back to the beach. I lived in Connecticut growing up, and going to the beach with my friends in high school and after. So it just reminded me of all that. Even takes you through the seasons, which I thought was really cool. So if you like poems and you like the beach and just kind of the particular scenery through the seasons and things like that, it was a really good read. It was hard to read. It's actually good to do, to kind of read something that you're uncomfortable. And I'm not a confident poem reader unless it's simple, probably kids' poems. I think I can read those, but this is an adult poem book, and I had to read it a few times to understand. User error. Thank you very much. I did love it. So I'm gonna put that book on here so you can go check it out and see if you love it like I did. It just connected me back to Connecticut, where I grew up. I don't know if that's where it's from. I don't remember, but up there somewhere, I think. All right. Well, I'm going to go. It was nice talking to you. I hope I didn't babble too much. I just wanted to kind of give you a backstory on how this all started. And I have several. I'll say several. I have a handful of books that I've already kind of written the start of, probably, and it'll go into this series because it's kind of a memoir. turned into a fictional story. So keep your eye out in March. I'm sure I'll come on here and talk about the book release. I'm also on Instagram. I just put a teaser on there. It's going to be a kind of a series of teasers leading up to the launch. So there's that. So keep your eye out. It's just on my regular Instagram and Facebook, Rachael Mohr. And I hope that you guys have a fabulous day. If you're in Georgia, I hope you stay warm. If you're anywhere else that is cold, I hope you stay warm. And if you're in a warm tropical area, please invite me. I'm cold. All right. Have a great day.